Hi guys, what's going on? And welcome to what is going to be my sort of ultimate review of Conqueror's Blade. So I've been taking part in the various closed beta tests for this game for well over a year now and easily logged over 100 hours in game. So I kind of wanted to boil all that down into sort of one relatively short review that will hopefully give you enough information to decide if this is a game you kind of want to put your time and effort into, kind of get stuck into. Now we're going into free to play and into open beta. So, for those of you who don't know, well, what is Conqueror's Blade? So, Conqueror's Blade describes itself as sort of a massive free-to-play medieval MMO in which you control your own hero, lead your units into combat in various PvP situations and things like siege battles, field battles, open world territory conquests, and features things, sort of side things, clans, crafting, matchmaking, sort of a huge open world, and obviously the territory wars thing, a sort of clan wars type element that I mentioned earlier. So kind of the official description aside, there's a pretty wide range of different weapon types and classes that you can pick from. In the footage behind me, hopefully you can see me, and I'm using the glaive, which is kind of more of an Eastern style class and weapon, and it's kind of reflected in the armour type that it uses as well. But there's a pretty wide range to pick from, and some are Eastern, some are Western, and some are sort of more hybrid between the two. You can pick other weapon classes like poleaxes, longsword and shields, muskets, longbow. There's like dual blades, and there's really quite a few to pick from. So you can sort of pick one which either suits your playstyle, or you can try around with a few different ones and kind of settle on the one that you like. So I guess by this point it's pretty clear that I do enjoy this game, otherwise I wouldn't have spent so much time playing during the closed beta tests. But kind of what are my favourite parts? We'll break this down for the good now and then the bad later on. But favourite parts, one word, siege battles. They're pretty epic. Normally featuring sort of 15 versus 15 players, they take place across a range of castle and fortress maps and involve attackers and defenders trying to use siege equipment, i.e. sort of things like cannons, as well as various other artillery, trebuchets and ballistas and stuff, as well as battering rams and siege towers. And the attackers are using that to try and make an assault against the walls of a castle or the fortress or the camp or whatever it is they're trying to assault. And they're trying to capture various points across that map. So, there'll be a point on the walls, and then a little bit further in, as you push on towards the keep, there'll be various points there they have to capture. And if the attackers manage to capture all the points, obviously they win that battle. But obviously, not unsurprisingly, it is the defender's job to stop this from happening. But kind of, as I briefly touched on earlier, it's not just the heroes involved in the fighting, but also kind of the retinue of units they have at their disposal. So they'll normally bring in units of around sort of 20 to 30 men. These are the AI units which they can control, you can place, you can tell them to guard this bit of wall here, if they're archers, or you can bring them with you. And there's a pretty wide range of different units you can pick and choose from sort of archers, arquebusiers, swords, pikes, javelins, cavalry. Pretty much every type of sort of unit of this period you can think of is pretty well in the game. And all of these guys kind of have their own tech trees. They all earn experience through various battles, and you can use that experience to give them slightly better penetration or to research them down into a different way. So they're all promotable, upgradable, and kind of researchable units, which kind of makes it interesting. And obviously not only these guys are researchable, but so is your character. This kind of leads me on then nicely to character experience, hero levels, and the matchmaking system. So, kind of contrary to games such as Mortal, where player skill is the main defining factor in all combat situations, in terms of winning fights, Conqueror's Blade adopts a level-based system with character, so the character levels can range from 1 to 60, and this obviously has an impact on the sort of equipment you can use, the attributes of your character, and conversely your combat sort of skill, combat experience, because it makes your character better. It doesn't affect combat skill though, and I think that is important to point out. It is perfectly feasible for lower level characters to beat high level characters. It's not like a lock, being a low level character doesn't mean you're useless in a battle, but there is at least some degree of impact in there. And kind of, is this a good thing or a bad thing? It's kind of a bit of a flip coin in my opinion, depending on how you perceive it. There is nice factors about it. There's certainly definitely a sense of achievement with leveling up, getting access to that higher tier equipment, unlocking new hero abilities. All of these things do give you a sense of fulfillment, and in an MMO game like this is trying to be, I think this is kind of a good thing, and I understand why they went with this way over just a purely skill-based combat system. But it's just something to bear in mind, sort of depending on how you feel about that sort of thing. And then this kind of leads me on to the matchmaking system. So currently in the game, there are basically two main ways in which you can initiate a battle. Through the open world and through the matchmaking system. It's kind of as you'd expect, getting into a fight in the open world is really a true free-for-all. Fights are kind of as balanced or unbalanced as you make them. You know, I guess the motto would be, beware bandits. If you get ambushed by 5 people, you get ambushed by 5 people and you will get slaughtered. And that's cool, I like that, I fully support that sort of really open aspect and open nature of it. But when you're not in the open world and you just sort of want a series of quick battles, that's where you turn to the matchmaking system. This is where you get put into the balanced siege battles, the field battles, etc, etc. And balancing this matchmaking system has been something that the game's kind of struggled with through the various closed beta tests, in my opinion. Often with sort of getting matched up against players who are significantly higher level than you, or whereas one side's got a series of high level players compared to the other, or classes are balanced up badly where, you know, one side has 7 ranged units and the other side has 1. And these kind of imbalances in the matchmaking system have kind of plagued the closed beta a little bit. We have seen a few changes. In the last patch we saw some matchmaking band introduced at low level to sort of cap introduction of higher tier players. And I'm also pretty hopeful that the influx of players that hopefully we can expect with the open beta will go quite a long way to assist the matchmaker in producing much more balanced fights when there's not enough people online. So fingers crossed the matchmaking is going to be improving going forwards. So I guess the next question I wanted to look at is what takes Conqueror's Blade from just sort of a medieval combat game to an MMO? So by this I kind of mean what gives this game replayability? What makes it more than just a sandbox combat game? And for me, I found that this boils down to the open world aspect, the player driven economy and the crafting system. So for the most part, the basic resources in the game, things like wood, iron, and the various sort of things that come off from that, which are used to craft upgraded weapons, armour, horses, produce units, maintain supplies for your units, etc., are all available to be collected and mined and gathered in the open world. So this kind of means it's not about fighting, but it is about fighting, but it's not just about fighting, it's also about the crafting and gathering side of the game. And because this is all available in the open world, it makes it very player driven, i.e. the more people gather resources, the more resources are on the market, rather than them just being solely available from an NPC. And then this, once you add on to this, that all these resources are available to collect in the open world, almost all of them can be captured as part of the territory wars. And captured by houses. Houses are like the in-game name for clans. Then you realise there's kind of a lot more depth to this game than meets the eye. And something as I further kind of touched on it briefly earlier is kind of the fact the open world can be a pretty dangerous place. You know, the further you travel from the safety of friendly territory, the better resources you can expect to find, but the higher risk of getting caught by maybe some of the houses that don't want you taking their resources from their territory, or for simply bandits who are looking to sort of attack, steal your goods before you make it back to the city. I mean, or if you're so inclined, you can become a bandit yourself and go off and hunt those who are trying to gather the resources. So yeah, there's kind of quite a lot to it behind the scenes, more than just the siege battles type thing. Once you're actually into a fight, I feel the combat can at times sometimes feel a little bit clunky. And the ability of heroes to sort of cause stun on enemies and occasionally stun lock you can cause for some frustrating gameplay at times. Things did, however, feel kind of smoother in the last closed beta that we had, where they made some changes, so I think if things continue in this direction and they can work on optimising the combat, make the combat system feel smoother, I think it has the potential to reach the place it wants to be. I just don't think it's quite there yet. But I do find the hero abilities and attacks pretty good, and I think they go a long way to separating the classes out. And you know, each hero has his own specific tech tree, which shows the different abilities that he can learn, and you have to pick and choose kind of which ones you want to use in combat. So this makes each hero kind of feel unique on the battlefield, and I think that's only a good thing. Combined with that, mounted combat is also pretty fun, pretty fast paced, but generally doesn't feel excessively powerful. So I think that's pretty good. It makes for some fun differences when you're charging around on a horse with a poleaxe. Certainly makes for some interesting times. We've also seen a few issues with class balance in the closed beta, and I don't think these yet have been properly addressed, but a few small tweaks could go a long way to solving this, so hopefully we'll see something revolving around that coming in sort of a couple of months' time. We'll just kind of have to wait and see. So, all things considered, is the game worth checking out? Well, really I'd have to say an absolutely yes. Firstly, it's going to be free to play. You don't really have a lot to lose by checking it out. I mean, it's free. If you don't like it, uninstall it. But more than that, for me, the game genuinely feels fun. Yes, it has some problems, of which they're not going to be gone tomorrow. It's going to be a long development cycle. But the core game is something pretty unique. And its broad spectrum makes it fun for me. The open world aspect is something we haven't really seen before on this scale, and that makes it pretty exciting, and pretty excited to see how it's going to continue developing over the next months and years. So I for one can't wait to get stuck into the open beta, and hopefully I'll see you guys all on the battlefield. So if you've enjoyed this review, do let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you think there's something I've missed that I should have covered? Some good points or some bad points that I didn't mention in the review? Do let me know. Subscribe to the channel for lots more Conqueror's Blade content, and I shall see you guys all on the next video.